in the face of all that is going on in the world, how do we find our purpose? Well, our purpose is found in the center of us, that intersection between our own spiritual growth and what the world needs. And right now the world needs more of us than we can ever imagine. And that's why we're here. We are the ones who showed up on the planet at this time, because we're the ones who can bring to bear those qualities of purpose and spirituality and growth that are needed. And in that fulfillment of that purpose, we find our joy. But it means we have to be flexible, and we have to be unconditional, and we have to know that that fountain of joy is within us regardless of the circumstances or the situations in life. And that, in fact, because those situations are as they are, we're being given an opportunity to express that joy within us. I just this morning had the strongest image of the intersection of our spiritual purpose, our spiritual growth. This is the spiritual growth of us, and we find our meaning, our purpose in life, where that intersects with our service, our spiritual service. So that's about our spiritual growth, and this is about serving the needs of others. And here in the middle is where we find our joy, our peace, our purpose. And a lot of us define our lives by our careers. And this is certainly fits that model. But your purpose isn't your job. But you express your purpose through your job. I know there's somebody in this room who thinks, I'm retired. How can I give spiritual service and fulfill my purpose? Or they're thinking, I got a kind of a dead-end job. There are no dead-end jobs. There are people who are calling out for you to express that beingness, that heart of hearts within you, right where you are. And if you're faithful in small things, greater things will be given to you. You've got to do that service right where you are. The level that you're at, the people that you're surrounded with, the tasks that you've been given. I have spiritual teachers, and one of them is Jane Elizabeth Hart, and I've shared with you last week about her 7 steps to creating a new you, and I'll talk about this later. But she came to Unity Village to become a Unity licensed teacher, but a lot more than that. And she got there, she got to know the minister there, and he said, oh, I've got the perfect job for you. You can be the person in the clubhouse just downstairs. How many people have been to the clubhouse by the waterfall near the swimming pool at Unity Village? How many people have seen that? It's just gorgeous. It looks like something out of The Hobbit. It's just the most beautiful thing. You can live downstairs, and you can listen to the waterfall day and night. And when they need people to open it up, you can open it up and clean it up and be the host. And oh, it's the most wonderful job. And she gave her all to the interview, and it went so well. You know, she shared her heart, and it was so great, and they didn't give her the job. They said she was overqualified. In her job, she was an IBM salesperson, and but she was willing to do it. You know, sometimes when you're willing to do and you give your whole self. How many people have had that happen when you are willing to do something and they tell you, no, you can't do it. And you're thinking, what? Who are you to tell me that? How many people have had that? Yeah. But when one door closes, another opens, because somebody had heard about her and they knew her background, and they said, we got another job opening. Another job opening. In development, she was put in charge of the entire West Coast of all the donors in Unity. Would fly out to Palm Springs and Beverly Hills and Hillsborough and Seattle and talk to all these people and pray with them and be their support and drive around in her little Mercedes. I mean, she had this great job, but it was because she was willing to give. What are you willing to give without thought of return? It's called Karma Yoga in the East. And Karma Yoga is, I give in spirit of service. I give my service. I take this action for God, and I give the fruits of the service, the results to God. I give my action to God. Together, I give my action to God, and I give the fruits to God. Together, and I give the fruits to God. So you give your service to God, and you give the results to God. You do it without attachment. And because she was in that space for that job that she was overqualified for, where she would have had to give up her car because they didn't pay enough for her to even have a car. But she was willing to do it. And it doesn't mean that you're supposed to live in poverty, but it's her willingness to give service, Where can you give service? Right where you are. And she did that for several years until that day came, and I've shared the story where she saw the vision at Unity, Silent Unity's meeting of the Center for Enlightenment, and she quit with only 3 months savings, and somebody sought her out and laid what ended up being in the 7 figures on her, and she's running the Center for Enlightenment online, and she's teaching, and I meet with a group every Wednesday night online, and it's this powerful spiritual teaching. But it was because she was willing to give service right where she was. But it meant that she had to stop judging the circumstances and the situations in life by her own judgment. You know, in your life, we want what we want when we want it. And we have an idea of what our good is and what our not so good is. You know, what do you think your good is? What do you think your not so good is? I love the quote from Rudyard Kipling. He said, if you can meet triumph and disaster and treat these two impostors the same, yours is the earth and everything in it. Yours is the earth and everything. So, but I don't want disaster. I don't want to be told I'm overqualified for the job. Gandhi is a great example of this. Gandhi was an attorney in South Africa. And his very first time that he ever was an attorney in a court of law, he couldn't speak. He was so petrified that he just sat there with his face in his hands. And he got thrown off right after that, thrown off a train for a white passenger. And out of that, then he had a dream. I'm going to be doing a dream seminar Tuesday night about this kind of thing. He had a dream showing him something that now is called nonviolent resistance, where it was the giving of love and service in such a powerful way. And he failed in his efforts in South Africa, but then he went to India and he succeeded. You know, in your life, where's one door closed and then another one open? You have to be flexible, you have to be open, you have to be willing to let something else open up for you. And that means not defining it on your terms. Being willing to listen and be open. I had this experience the second time I was in Hawaii. Somebody told me about this place on Maui where the kahunas would go. And it was this great spiritual place. And they would go down a trail and you could go and be in this spiritual place. Well, of course, I'm going, right? So I drive my car to the space and there's a place for me to park and I start walking down the trail and I'm all by myself and this bee comes and I've never seen a bee like that again in Hawaii. It was huge and it was aggressive. And the bees in Hawaii are very passive, not this one. This one was going for it. But it was the weirdest thing because the minute I hit a certain place, the bee would get right at me and I would back off and I'd go this way. The bee would follow. But if I walked the other way, backwards, the bee didn't bother me. But the minute I started going, I started thinking, this is no ordinary bee. This is some kind of spiritual bee. This bee doesn't want me to walk down this kahuna trail to the spiritual place. Hey, I'm a spiritual guy. I have a right to do this. What's that bee think he is? So I went back and boom, and it happened over and over and over again. How many times have you had to bee? And it's telling you, no, don't do this. This isn't for you. It wasn't for me. I was not the person who was supposed to be going down that trail. I just wasn't, for whatever reason. You know, maybe I had too many bees in my bonnet. I don't know. Well, whatever it was. You know, my son went through this recently. He auditioned for something in his school. He wanted to be in the jazz band. And you know, he's a great jazz pianist, and he writes his own jazz compositions, and he arranges them, and he arranges them for band, and he's got all these things going, and he had himself so practiced. He had it all down just so beautifully, and whatever happened, it didn't work. I mean, he was just struggling like crazy, and his heart fell into his shoes. And there were two parts of the audition. The first was his piece that he had down, but the guy just said, "You just just keep plowing through it. He plowed through it to the end, but he knew he had not done well. And oh, you know, Megan's going, oh God, I've been there, right? So then the second part was the improvisation. And he just aced it because he can improvise anything. And the teacher looked at him and said, what would you rather be, in a band or in a combo? Because we're going to start combo next year, a jazz combo. Now he's been struggling, trying to arrange his pieces for big band. It's a lot of pieces, a lot of parts. It takes a lot of time. But here it would be a small group. And also, what's the likelihood that they would do one of his songs, right? But in the small group, they're going to do his songs. It's going to be, and also, he would have to drop one of his classes. No, he could just do it one morning a week at 7:30 a.m. I mean, it just was in every way. And I asked him, what do you think this is about? He said, oh, I know it's in divine order. I know it's in divine order. Together? I know that it's in divine order. Because it's the B. Together? Because it's the B. There are many things that are going on in this world right now that are like the B. We're going down a path and we're getting this stuff. I trust my teachers. I have very good teachers. And they assure me, they're plugged in, and I trust them when they tell me that what's happening right now is things are being stirred up so that we will be prevented from having worse consequences later on. It's coming up earlier. Now, Lynn teaches something called Love and Logic, which is a parenting method or philosophy. It's more than a method that includes techniques that's designed to teach kids to take responsibility through sometimes dealing with the consequences of their choices earlier than later. So you want them at the earliest possible age to experience what the negative result is of their choices, so that the consequence might be you have to stay after school or get a 0 on a paper rather than you have to go to prison or something worse. At an older age, we're in that situation. Although you say, well, we've got some pretty serious consequences. Yes, but right now, maybe just frame it this way, because this is what I was told, to prevent something much worse 100 years from now. You say, well, I'll be here in 100 years. How do you know? You didn't believe reincarnation in your last life either. But regardless, taking the long view and realizing that you have, that what's happening in the world has meaning and has purpose. And you say, what can I do about it? I don't have any power. You have the real power. You have the power of consciousness. You have the power of heart. You have the power that doesn't do things on the short term, but does it on the longer term. That is, that you can engage. You can engage with that power in you, and you will be put in a situation where maybe a door will close, but another one will open. You know, I shared this last service, at the end of the service. I'll share it now. My kids, both of them, had situations like this when they were in school. My son was in kindergarten, and he had a teacher who was very, very rigid, and everything was very structured. She was Teacher of the Year that year. And when it came about 3-4 weeks into the term, we were called in and handed a sheet of paper with 3-letter words on it: dog, cat, bat, boy. And we were told, you know, your son will have to know those words at the end of kindergarten for us to pass him into first grade. You see, he'd been very uninterested in learning the things that she was trying to teach them because he already knew them. So I looked at him and I said, well, he learned those words when he was 2. And she looked at me like, oh, you poor deluded parent. She says, she'll have to learn those words by the time, etc. Well, guess what? And he needs to be tested. We had him tested. The neurologist said he's of above average intelligence, he's bored, and if she doesn't get with the program, you need to pull him out of that class. And so he ended up going to a Montessori school and thriving. He's an honor student and all this kind of stuff. I'm a bragging parent, I'll admit it. But it was because of the B, because of the thing. Now, we have to be flexible and not see our actions and the results of our actions as fulfilling our purpose, but rather it's just in giving the service, it's just in the expression itself. You know, the people who are the happiest are the people who are volunteering and giving of themselves. And those are the people who are the difference makers in the world. And if we're stuck in our lives and we feel like, oh, things are stuck, ask, Where can I give service? Where can I reach out to people around me? And where can I get out of myself? I get out of myself together. I get out of myself and I get into myself together. And I get into myself. And so we're, and then the same thing happened with Rosalie. There was a dance recital when she was 3 years old, and there was a woman sitting there, saw her on the stage doing whatever she was doing, and she said, I'm a PhD educator, I go around the country and I give seminars. You've got an unusual kid, and you'll have teachers who love this kid because she's going to really challenge him and everything. But there's going to be teachers that won't, and the minute you find that out, get her out of that class because it'll ruin her. So, second grade rolls around, we have a teacher who, Rosalie would get her work done first, and she'd sit there, and the teacher wouldn't let them read if they got done, or do anything. They had to sit. And it was disruptive for them to read while the others would. Well, the straw broke the camel's back. I'm telling you this because this is, I think, a good example of this. When Rosalie came to school with a coat, it was a 75-degree day, because you can get coats on sale when it's warm. So proud of this coat, showed this coat off, and the fact that this child would bring a coat on a warm day to school was so upsetting to this teacher that Rosalie was sent to the principal's office. And that was it. Pulled Rosalie out of that class. They said, well, there's only one teacher that has an opening in the class. And you could tell this principal didn't think this was a very good teacher. The other parents didn't think this was a very good teacher. Do you know why? Because the room was messy. Well, you know what? The teaching was alive. And this was the best possible thing, It was the bee. Together? It was the bee. Now, in your life, with people around you, with the situations you're dealing with, where do you have an opportunity to move through your spiritual growth and your spiritual service to your center? There's really two things that facilitate moving into the center. And one is to move through the pain of letting go of whatever's between you and that sacred center that's found at this intersection. And the second is to find the joy and the laughter and the happiness that is there, that is drawing you to that center. And that, Lao Tzu wrote in the Tao Te Ching 2,500 years ago, without laughter the Tao would not be what it is. Finding that joy, finding that happiness. But we're so serious in life. I'll never forget my friend, who was a Unity minister, went into his church, and his first Sunday he said something funny and 3 people got up and walked out. Sometimes we have a hard time with that kind of thing. So we've got to get over ourselves and let go and experience the joy that moves us into our hearts. Charles Fillmore was hilarious. His favorite 2 affirmations were, what the hell, all is well. That was one of his favorite affirmations. I'm not making this up. He said it. Our co-founder of Unity. The other thing he said was, everything is lovely and the goose honks high. That was his other. I don't know how serious he was, but he would make people get up and march around the room. He told a joke in every service. I've shared before about my friend who met this industrialist, Ewing Kauffman, and owned a huge insurance. You've heard his name because Kauffman Stadium, where the Royals play in Kansas City, that's him. He financed it and built it. And this friend of mine, his Unity minister, met him at some kind of gathering, and Ewing Kauffman said to him, oh, Unity minister. He said, I'm Jewish, but my favorite person I ever met in my working life was the founder of Unity, Charles Fillmore. Well, my first job, I was 19 years old, I was delivering laundry, and he was on my route, and every time that I would drop off his laundry, he'd tell me a different joke. And half of them weren't appropriate from a religious leader. So getting off yourself, getting over yourself, moving into that sense of joy. And you say, how can I be happy when da-da-da is going on, Jesus said, the poor you'll always have with you. You've got to have joy. You've got to have happiness. You've got to do that, because that's what gives you life. That's what gives you the effervescence. That's what gives you the energy. And moving with that energy. The other thing that helps you to move into that heart space is to, yes, feel your pain, but don't let it be a decision, which you call suffering. Pain is a feeling. Everybody goes through pain. But suffering is a decision. And this shows up like this. You feel You feel your sadness, but despair is a decision. You may feel afraid, but immobilization is a decision. You may feel anger, and that's okay to feel that, to move through it. But hate is a decision. To understand the difference between a feeling and a decision. Now you say, what am I supposed to do with a feeling? Journal it out. Get it out. Release it. Move through it and let it move through you. As a friend of mine said, look at it but don't stare at it. You know, move through your feelings. And I've got something last week, and this morning last night actually, I got again that I need to mention it again. Many of you picked up a copy of 7 Steps to Creating a New You. This is Jane Hart's lecture at Unity of Phoenix that she gave many years ago. And the questions for it. But as you journal these things out and do the meditation, the feelings will come up naturally. And you can release them. And they will help you to move into that sacred center, that heart that's within you. But you've got to be willing to move through the experience, not letting the experience define you. Now, a lot of us think of our sacred purpose, at that genius within us, as having to express through our careers. But sometimes we have to be patient. Sometimes we may find that it's something totally improbable that wakes us up to our spiritual purpose. And I think, and I'm going to share the whole story of when Jesus was called to ministry. Now, he was 30 years old. He'd been for at least 18 years working with his dad, and then after his dad died, running their family construction business, because that's what a carpenter was. And he, I'm sure, did a very good job. I'm sure I'd want him to build my house for me. You know, this is something that would be good. But he had not started on this next phase until something very interesting happened. And I'm going to share this story because I think it's so weird. It really is weird. On the third day, there was a wedding at Cana in Galilee, and the mother of Jesus was there, and he and his disciples were also invited to this wedding. When the wine ran out, Jesus' mother said to him, "They're out of wine." And Jesus said to her, "Woman, what's that to you, and what's it to me? My hour isn't here yet." His mother said to the servants, "Go ahead, do whatever he tells you to do." She just ignored him. Now, standing nearby were 6 stone water jars according to the purification requirements, each holding between 20 and 30 gallons. So he said to the servants, "Fill up those jars with water." So they filled them up to the brim. He told them, "Now draw some out and take it to the master of the feast." And they took some of that wine, and the master of the feast tasted the water that had become wine, not knowing where it came from, although the servants knew. And he called the bridegroom out and said, "Everyone serves the best wine first, and then, when the guests are a little drunk," that's really what it says, "that which is inferior, but you've kept the good wine until now." Jesus did this, the first of his signs, at Cana in Galilee, and revealed his glory, and his disciples believed in him. What kind of story is that? First of all, he doesn't even know that he's supposed to be called. And the second thing is, mother knows best. She says she overrules him. I mean, the most improbable circumstances in your life are going to call you to your purpose. And you got to be open and flexible, because he got off it and he went ahead and he moved with it. You got to move with your guidance. You got to move with it. And if it seems frivolous, turning water into wine, what is that? That's the most ridiculous thing in the world. Except for it's not. It was what was happening. It was what the now moment required. And there's symbology to it, because the word spiritus, which is what the wine was, meant spirit, and it also meant the alcohol in the wine. So whatever. But the purpose of this was to move Jesus into fulfilling his purpose. And you say, but I want it to be all locked up tight, and I don't want to deal with anything uncomfortable. You know, I found that when my ego is happy, my soul isn't always very happy. But when my ego is very unhappy with something, my soul may be saying, "Yeah, go for it. Atta guy." And, you know, we say, "Well, I came here. I don't want to hear that kind of stuff. I don't want you to give me something to listen to and do." But you know what? Sometimes you've got to move through some stuff. Sometimes you've got to move with the Spirit, move with the feelings that come up. And in many of these situations, you say, "Well, I just want the positive. I just want the positive thinking." Well, I've got a couple of interesting things that Charles Fillmore and Norman Vincent Peale said. Fillmore said, "Pronounce the omnipresence of the good in every experience, even if that experience isn't good. That means there are experiences in life that aren't good. I'm not saying that God is bringing the world situation to you to get you to do this or that, but it's there, and it's there for you to make a higher choice and a higher purpose, for you to pronounce the omnipresence of good. I pronounce the omnipresence of good. Together. I pronounce the omnipresence of good, even if it's not good. Together. Even if it's not good. And then Norman Vincent Peale, who took the term power of positive thinking from an article by Charles Fillmore, he said, this positive thinking is realistic thinking. It doesn't work by pretending pain isn't there. It always sees the negative, but it doesn't dwell on the negative and nurture it, letting it dominate the mind. It keeps that negative in the proper size and then grows the positive larger. And thus, it enables countless people to have serenity and power. So you go through the feeling. You don't stop there. Jesus went through his feelings. He didn't stop there. He had every feeling you and I have. He had the sadness before he raised Lazarus from the tomb. He had the fear when he was in the Garden of Gethsemane. He had the passionate feeling before, when he was overturning the tables in the temple. He had every feeling, but he didn't let it stop him. He moved with it. He moved through it. And because of this, in every single situation, he was able to move through it. And then on the other side of it, he was able to create something as a demonstration or an answered prayer or in a positive way. So move through it, move with it, and let it move with you. And be flexible. And know that the situations in life are never going to meet every one of your personal needs, but they're going to be exactly what you need to move you into that sacred center, that heart center, that is the intersection between your spiritual purpose and growth and your spiritual purpose in service. And as you move into it, let be willing to process and let go of what's in the way. So let's just open our hearts and open our minds and move into this now moment and know that there's a heart within us. There's a center within us. It's sacred and it's waiting. My heart is waiting for me. My heart is calling me. I'm being called into my heart. And so just take that journey into that heart space in you. Feel your heart beating physically in your chest. And feel your sacred heart beating spiritually in your center. One is the outforming of the other. You can connect with your heart of hearts, your I am that I am, through your physical heart beating. And just as this heart is circulating life energy, so your spiritual heart is circulating purpose and meaning. I came to bring you joy, that your joy may be full and complete. I do not give as the world gives. Move into this sacred space. Move back into the presence of this time in this room, and we say, thank you, God. We are refreshed, and we will follow the leadings of our heart. Thank you, God. Amen. And now take a deep, deep breath and let it out. Set aside all your papers in your hands and just open yourself. Get in the open space that lets things move deeper. So letting go of everything you're holding on to. I'll give you a moment to do that. Take a nice deep breath and let it out again. And move into the sacred space. There's a space of love in your heart that was placed there at the beginning. It's the true origin of your meaning and your purpose. It's your center of peace, of love. And it's found at that perfect intersection between your spiritual growth and your expression of love and service to the people around you. And right there in that sweet spot, that heart center, is all the joy, flowing like a fountain, all the love, all the purpose. And just imagine yourself dropping into your heart. That center of joy. Remember the words of the Master, I came that your joy be full and complete. And I give to you this joy, not as the world gives, give I to you. Not conditionally, not based on circumstances or headlines or events in life, but just because this joy just is. And it's the purpose and the meaning of life and the reason why we're here. To not only experience it, but to share it. Once again, center yourself, move into this heart space. Everything you need is there. The sense of meaning, the feeling of purpose, fulfillment and satisfaction, joy and peace. And as we move with this is not a static state. This is a moving, flowing, dynamic, energetic beingness. Ising, being in all of us. And we must flow with it. We must flow with it. So we let go of our ideas of what it would take to experience that joy, that peace within us. We let go of the way the world would have to behave and the way our circumstances would have to look. And we just move. We move with this joy, with this peace. We move in it, flowing. Dynamic, energetic, peaceful, flowing space. From the center of love within us, we know that all of our needs are met. Whatever is needed is fulfilled as we let go. Peace. Peace. There's such a sense of well-being and peace, unconditional, a joy that is full and complete, a love that makes no demands, it just flows. And we are grateful. We're grateful for this living purpose in the center of us, that place of intersection between our own spiritual growth and the service to others, to humanity. We are grateful. And we move with it, we move in it, we are it. Thank you, God. Thank you, Spirit. And so it is.
We're going to take our offering. And our offering statement is, I give in joy and I receive abundantly. Together. I give in joy and I receive abundantly. And and silently. And again, aloud together. I give in joy and I receive abundantly, and so it is. Amen.